There's a big Go tournament coming up in San Diego, the California State Go Championship, and that'll be hosted by the San Diego Go Club from Saturday, November 29th to Sunday, November 30th. And surprise, surprise, I will be commentating the first round with none other than Travis of the All Things Go podcast. Super exciting. I've never commented on a game of, commented on a game of Go, but I've never commentated live on a game of Go before, so I'm very excited to do that. It'll be streamed on Twitch. If you go to twitch.tv/Paduk Club, that's where everything will be there. That's where all the magic will happen. I happened upon this role because you guys remember Tin from way back. Of the Mission Viejo Go Club. He's been on a couple episodes of Starpoint. He actually contacted me with the SD Go Club president, Enrique, who also happens to be the AGA secretary, and things got moving, and I got paired up with Travis. And so we were going to have an amazing Go podcast hosted opening round, which will start at 10 a.m. on that Saturday, November 29th. So, I don't know if I mentioned, but that's Thanksgiving weekend for us here in the States. So tune into that. I will be watching you guys chat, and hopefully we can address your chats during the stream, and it'll be a good time. You're listening to Starpoint, the show about Go for Go fans, away from the board. And I've been seeing a lot of Reddit posts crop up about how to play this game, this grand game of Go, and I love that. One of my favorite things, and one big sign of health I see in the Go community, is when I see a plethora of posts asking for help on how to begin, how to get started, and what is this game, because it means that people are coming to the game and getting to know the game, and the community is growing. So I love those kinds of posts. So today I wanted to go ahead and address some of the ones that have been popping up as of late on our Paduk, which is the Reddit, or the subreddit rather, for Go. A lot of people kind of lost Redditors moment, go to our Go game, which is another, subreddit for Go, but it's just not as big. It's not really the centralized community, and you don't get as many responses there, but that one exists as well. These ones are all from our Paduk, which is, of course, the Korean name for Go, because our Go, I'm sure, is something taken and unrelated to Go. And so Paduk actually is also a lot more searchable. Unfortunately, if you're hearing about the game, you kind of may not know to search for Paduk. You may just search Go game, which is why a lot of people go into the Go game subreddit. But anyway, without further ado, let's get into the first post. We're going to be covering 4 topics, or 4 posts. They're really similar, but basically all these posts are from beginners who are kind of struggling with how to get started with the game. So the first poster's title says, "Just started playing yesterday. How can I tell if I'm in a good position, and how do I know which play to make when there's so many possible options?" Man, if that's a question that's going to stick with you for the entirety of your Go career. And I mean, it's going to get easier. It's going to get more clear as you go on. But this poster also added some images. Maybe I'll talk about the images after I read the actual description of this game. Quite a popular post, 42 comments. Hello there, everyone. I'm new to Go. I just started playing yesterday. This is a match between me and OGS's 25Q AI, Agapanthus. I hadn't completed the full course/tutorial yet on OGS's website and simply wanted to experience an actual game. You know what? That kind of makes me wonder, how long does it take to do that tutorial? I thought it was fairly short and you would breeze through it in 5 minutes. But if you're kind of skipping ahead and not wanting to do... I guess there's probably some intricacies about Co and things like that maybe being covered there. But yes, okay, continuing. For the first few minutes of the game, I didn't know whether I was in a good or bad position, and the same was true for the later parts of the game. My question is, as a beginner, how can I tell which play to make when there are so many options? And how can I tell if I'm in a favorable position? Is a favorable position simply having more territory and by extension or not more liberties than the opponent? To me, it's like wading through a pond with water lilies and wanting to pick one. There are so many. How do I know which one to pick? And how do I know I picked the correct one? All right, so very common sentiment, not only amongst new players, but experienced ones, can be very overwhelming. In fact, if you look at this game of Go, you really don't have a way to know where to play other than just based off of what people tell you. It kind of makes logical sense for us to say the corners are the most efficient. That's why we play the corners first. If you explain the whole spiel about stones taking up or being more efficient in terms of how many stones are used to encapsulate, to enclose the most amount of territory with the fewest amount of stones, it makes a lot of sense right off the bat why corners are so valuable. But that doesn't really touch on how far away from the corner you should be. Why not take a larger chunk of the corner? And that really just comes down to the size of an eye, maybe. How much space it takes for you to create an eye, because you have to kind of take an area of the board where your opponent can't live. But then it's not that simple. You have to take an area of the board where your opponent can't live if you're trying to take that territory for yourself, but you don't necessarily always want that territory for yourself. You're taking that corner because if your opponent lives there, you will gain the influence towards the center. And it's so complicated right away when you start to explain why you do certain things, and you just kind of go through the motions in the beginning as a beginner, especially for the opening moves. Oh man, that grid is terrifying. So to answer your question here, well, let's start with, there's a few questions. I think there are a few questions here if you break it up. One of them being, how do I know where to play when there are so many options? And that comes down to, I think, here's the way I might explain this. Thickness and life and death. You first must understand the concept of life and death. If you have two eyes, you're alive. If you don't have two eyes, you're not quite alive. And that is a very key preliminary concept that you have to have in order to understand anything else. And once you understand that, then you kind of understand the degree of thickness where a stone or group of stones is more or less alive as it approaches or backs away from the possibility of gaining that life status. All that to say, a group of stones, if it has like more of a potential to be alive or is alive, it's more thick. If it is more of a potential to be dead or broken down and not alive, then it's thin. And playing away from all that thickness, I think, is the key. I don't think my explanation really solved anything. But that's how my brain works right now. And maybe if I try to decompose those thoughts and maybe make it simpler. Okay, here's my other answer. Okay, so the first answer is kind of brainy and difficult to understand, but basically understand thickness and play away from it. That's the key principle, right? I'm looking at this game that this person posted, and I see a ginormously thick group of stones. It has like 20 eyes. And it's like you shouldn't be playing around that group anymore, right? And so that principle would apply here. And you have to just take my word for it. Like, you're going to ask, why can't I just keep growing my thick stones? And there are many reasons I could get into. But understanding thickness and then understanding to play away from it, whether it's your own or your opponent's, I think is the key to Go. And it absolutely is not sufficient to become good at Go, but that is like as much as I can boil it down to. The other tip is to just pay attention to stronger players and the patterns and the feeling of the way they play stones and try to play in a similar rhythm. Think of it like when you're a baby and you're trying to take your first steps. And if somebody were to tell you, keep your sense of balance, use your arms to spread out, and move one leg at a time, and the baby's like just barely trying to understand what English you're throwing at the baby, and the baby's just very confused. What are you saying? I don't even know these words. And I'm just trying to move on to the next stage in my life as a 2-year-old. The more intuitive way for the baby to learn is to look at the adults walking around going, oh, wow, that's cool. How do I do that? I see that they're just like kind of waddling back and forth with their legs, and you know what? I'm just going to try it. And they do. And that's how they kind of learn. I suppose this kind of raises a question about genetics and what we know internally, like nature versus nurture type of thing. And I'm sure if a baby were born without the contact of other humans, they may eventually become bipedal, but I don't know. But this kind of taking the analogy too far. Essentially just watch and learn. Watch and learn, ask questions, watch and learn, ask questions. I think that's really the best way to do it. No one's going to be able to explain to you where all the good moves are in like one sentence. I think that's something that I've always looked for as I was growing up in Go. I thought maybe somebody held the secret, the mighty secret. And you know what? That's what I tried to do with the thickness analogy, where you just kind of try to play away from thickness. But it all falls short of just learning the game through intuition, making sure you pay attention to how others are playing, ask why they're playing that way, verifying their play against yours, and trying to mimic the good play. Let's see what. First commenter says, you can start on a smaller board to understand the game better. Definitely, yeah. That I think kind of ties in with my whole thing about you need to understand life and death and what thickness is, because really it's about efficiency. And I'm rambling here, but it's a podcast. I'm allowed to ramble. It's about efficiency. You're trying to take up as much space on the board as possible while not dying. That's the game, right? That's really the game. And two ways of going about it. One is you get so overconcentrated and you become so strong in one area of the board that you neglect all the other areas of the board, and you lose because you became too strong in one area or thick in one area. The other way is that you try to take too much of the board without becoming strong, and you die everywhere, and you can't take any territory through that means. So it's all about that balance and that tension. You and your opponent are scattering stones as far and wide as they can while still remaining alive, and this balance and dance of weakness and strength is the beauty of Go, and I will leave it at that for your post. I don't think that my comments here were particularly helpful for someone of your level, but hopefully they were entertaining at the very least. I want to maybe actually read a couple more comments here. Go Gabe Go, as you know, Struggle Bus also responded to this post. 19 by 19 is totally overwhelming at first, which is why many people recommend starting with 9 by 9. With that said, I recommend getting to 19 by 19 ASAP once you know how capturing works and how scoring works. But yeah, it's totally overwhelming at first. As to tell if you are in a good position or not, that comes with time and experience. At first, it's likely going to come down to, did you lose stones while your opponent didn't? But even that really isn't a great indicator. The actual answer is who has stronger groups and more potential to make big areas of points. Again, that's really all you have to figure out at first. Go is notoriously tricky to figure out. It's so rewarding though. Well, that comment kind of validated a lot of stuff I was saying. I feel like it mirrors a lot of the stuff that I've been mentioning. So I like that. And there's a plethora of questions here I won't get into. But yeah, maybe I'll just leave it there for now and move on to the next post, which says, hey, so I started this game, but it's a nightmare. Okay. I've been playing on OGS and consuming a lot of guides and videos, but every time I play a robot or a human that is 25Q, I'm getting cooked. Like I am so confused what I am doing wrong, and it's so frustrating. So I wanted to ask, how did you guys overcome this problem? Man, yeah, so common of people to feel this way. And I think once you pass 25Q and you're like in the I guess we don't have a term for the teens queues. Teen queues? The 10 to 20 queue range. Once you get to that range, you kind of take things for granted, like, oh, it's so easy to get past 25Q. But, this game is tough and it's hard. So, especially if you don't really have a grasp on what problem is causing you to stay at that rank. But one thing I want to note here about this particular Redditor is that they didn't provide any game data. And that is always the first thing I look for on these kinds of posts, because we can directly tell you what the problem that you're experiencing is. And there are so many problems that you could be experiencing, but we don't know. So we have to give generic advice, which can help, but it's not as helpful as knowing the specific problems that you are facing. Whether you are just losing out on every reading problem, or you are playing in one corner of the board, or whatever, right? And or you have a fundamental misunderstanding of what eyes are, or you don't even know what an eye is. You've never heard of one. If you're consuming lots of guides and videos, well, are you consuming guides and videos at your level? If you're looking at high-level opening theory videos, they're not even going to mention eyes, so you may not even realize that you are not understanding a very, very basic concept. So it's hard to give advice without seeing an actual board, but to this person, I would say try to find somebody who is stronger than you, who can explain a little bit about what you should work on. I think, well, that's basically what you're doing by posting on Reddit, which is great. Let's see what I'm curious what the commenters responded here. Go is hard, especially at the beginning. It is difficult to know what you want to do and how to do it. You probably know some theory, but it is difficult to apply it. I would suggest to play only humans on 9x9 until you feel you understand what is happening. Stop and think at every move. No automatic response. Ponder on not playing where your opponent just played. Lose your first 100 games. I'm sure you are already much stronger than yourself at your very first games. Fantastic advice, I would say. 9x9. So what the great thing about 9x9 is it teaches you everything you need to know to play on the 19x19. Well, almost, and the asterisk there, almost everything you need to know to play on the 19x19. The 9x9 teaches you how to read, teaches you what living and dying is, it teaches you how to score, it teaches you it teaches you all these things, and they happen so much more frequently than on a 19x19. You could play all these really airy, floaty 19x19 moves that don't get into hand-to-hand combat, and you won't see that stuff. 9x9 forces that, so being able to play that over and over again until you understand exactly what the mechanisms of Go are, it's very, very invaluable. And so that's that, I've always said 9x9 until you understand what ladders are, what you understand codes are, what you understand how to score. What else is there? Until you understand what eyes are and why you need them, and what fake eyes are or false eyes are. Those kinds of fundamental principles, if you can understand all of those things and you list them out and you say, check, 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 I know all these things, then move on to the 19x19. And then all you have to do now is know what opening theory is. And then you're kind of set. You know how to fight. You know when the stones start making contact with each other, you know how that goes. And then, the eternal question of like territory versus influence gets introduced, but these are advanced ideas. Territory and influence, if you are a Go player, it's like fundamental. It seems like such a basic concept that you have to know about to play Go. But if we're really being real with ourselves with this game, it's an advanced concept. For someone to understand the concept of territory and influence, they need to understand so many other things before that. So I like this person's, this commenter's response. I think that's great. I think you just have to keep searching for knowledge. But I think, the guiding light that I always keep on turning to is looking at pro games, looking at stronger players' games, and trying to mimic them. And that, I feel like that is a very good way to start off, especially on the 19x19. And you'll see the differences. You'll see how I know that certain people don't look at stronger players' games because they play 7-6 point as an opener. Right. And immediately who's not paying attention to other people's games and who are not trying to mimic them. It's good for experimentation and stuff, but eventually you got to buckle down and just kind of go with what has been established because there's a reason for those things. Let's move on to the next post. How do I actually become good at this game? I started playing a few years ago. I know the rules, some of the basic terminology and tactics, but I've never really gotten very good. I've played a little online against AI and started reading a book, but I feel like I'm not really getting better, and I feel like I'm not really learning a lot from the games I play. I want to join a local Go club because I need a serious hobby and the social interactions, but I don't think I'm good enough to play with them. So what's the secret to becoming good? How do I find people online to practice/play with? Well, there are a few things here, some very similar things to the previous posts we've read today, like kind of searching for a secret, a shortcut, or some kind of wisdom or epiphany that will help you become a better Go player. I've been like that my whole life, and I realized that, well, not my whole life, my whole Go life. And I've realized that question, it's not invalid, but it's something that you need to answer for yourself. And no one can hand that knowledge to you. You must go and grab it for yourself. It's not like people are withholding information, but Go is like this mysterious entity of a teacher that only speaks to you when you go speak to it. And when it speaks to you and tells you its secrets, it somehow places a seal upon your lips and does not allow you to share those secrets because they've befuddled your language skills and you don't know how to properly pass down knowledge, because ultimately experience is the teacher of Go. A lot of assumptions here I have to make about this player, but first of all, I don't see any game records being posted, so that's always the number one thing. I think the flaw to these kind of questions of like, how do I get good at this game? How do I get better? People ask them without posting their game data because I assume they think the advice for everyone should apply, and like there is just a universal way to get better, but it's not like that. And everybody has their own problems. It's akin to somebody going to a subreddit full of doctors and going, how do I cure my illness? Right? doctors are going to be like, what illness do you have? Like, what do you want us to do here? Okay. And they're going to tell you, what are they going to tell you? They're going to tell you to exercise. They're going to tell you eat healthy and sleep well. And that's what they're going to have to say, because you didn't say anything about what conditions you have and what problems you're facing. So that's really what's going on here. The thing is that I know the feeling. I know why you feel like you can just ask the community how to get good at Go without posting your problems, because you don't want someone to like tell you what your problems are. You want someone to give you generic universal advice. Look, generic universal advice exists, but it really you're gonna hear the same things over and over again. Play lots of games, do sumego, study, read books. And you're saying that you've kind of been doing that and you're frustrated. Then, well, the next step is to review your games with a stronger player. So, so that's one thing addressed. The other thing I want to mention here is about this person's hesitance to go to a Go club because you need a serious hobby and you don't think you're good enough to play them. Man, that's unfortunate, because you absolutely don't need to be any good at Go to any Go club. And if any Go club, is gonna turn their nose up at you because you're not good at it, then that's not a good Go club. The Go clubs I know about are very welcome to beginners, and all Go players that I've met are so enthusiastic when somebody wants to learn how to play. It's such a delight. And I remember meeting somebody at one of the tournaments that I've gone to who was a total beginner. They were barely starting. They were 20-something Q. And they were at a tournament. They were just there because they wanted to experience what Go was. And that was awesome. And I got to tell them, hey, look, I get to share some of my knowledge with you in the short time I have between rounds. And I get to tell you a little bit about how to play, and hopefully helps you out in the future. I loved that. That's amazing. So really, if you're someone out there who feels like you're not good enough to go to a Go club, I mean, you're kind of missing the point of Go club. Go club isn't an elitist organization where you have to be a certain strength to be able to play. It's a place where people of all levels can come together and share with one another their experiences and their learning of Go. So I would encourage you to go, just show up. I'm sure you'll have a positive experience. As this sentiment's shared with the top commenter, your local Go club is exactly where you want to go. The attitude, I don't think I'm good enough to play with them, is nonsense. They will teach you what you need to know so that you will become better. And I think there's a whole bunch of people agreeing with that. Yeah, actually, you know what? This is the resounding message in the comments here about the Go club. But anyway, if you want my universal advice, if you're saying, yes, Justin, I understand all that. Great. I will review my games with a pro. I will do all that you tell me to do. But please tell me, how do I get good at this game? What's your universal advice? My universal advice is, don't feel like you're not learning with each game, because you are. It's slow, right? Just keep playing the games. Keep thinking about it. Keep thinking about why you're winning and why you're losing. Those two things. Just play more games more frequently and think about why you're winning or why you're losing. And that's really all it should take to get to a good level. I'm shrugging my shoulders at this one, but that's all I have to say about that. And then our final post of the day. How do I play the game, have fun, and not feel stupid? I understand that the secret behind getting better is just studying hard, but I just want to play and have fun playing. With time, I've become good at making peace with my own mediocrity in things, LOL. I'm not exactly sure how to have fun yet, but I think part of it is in understanding what I'm doing and what my opponent is trying to do. But it's difficult to make good and informed moves in Go, especially in the beginning. Like, if you show me a board with a game, I would probably not be able to tell you who's in the lead. Maybe I just have poor insight skills or something. I've mostly been losing games online and in real life, and I can't help but feel somewhat inferior. OGS gave me a rank of 40-something Q, so I guess it thinks so too. I have to comment on that. Playing IRL is kind of nice though. Meeting all sorts of people in the local club does ease the experience, even though I am not a people person generally. I enjoy solving card solitaire, especially the ones with perfect information and with minimum randomness. See Zachtronic's Solitaire Collection. I've never heard of this. Even after losing, I'm satisfied since I got to exercise my single brain cell in a good way, lol. With Go, I don't feel the same way yet. Compared to Solitaire, the tree of possible game states is just too vast, and there's no good heuristic to judge how well you are doing aside from captured stones, maybe. So does the fun in Go come from just winning games, or is there a secret component to it? This post is kind of all over the place, so apologies. Wow, I love all the different kind of issues brought up in this post. Okay, so this is a unique post because usually people are like, how do I not feel stupid? Like, how do I get better so I don't feel stupid? But this person's really focused on having fun with the game, but is kind of feeling stupid while they're playing. So this person's kind of asking a very deep question, like, where is the fun aspect in Go? Lots of things here to cover. I'm trying to narrow down certain things. Okay, let's just kind of talk about little things that this person has mentioned. Like, if you showed me a board with a game, I would probably not be able to tell you who's in the lead. Maybe I just have poor insight skills or something. That's, you know what, very, very difficult to tell who's in the lead with Go, and that's really one of the biggest problems with watching games and why people maybe kind of tune out when they watch games. It's very hard to tell who's in the lead. But it's really just, I guess you have to train your eye to see what will become territory. So let's say you look at the game at the very end. Some people might be able to tell right away who's in the lead. Some people might have to count to be able to tell who's in the lead. But the information is there and it's perfect and you can figure it out, right? So no problem there. Scale it back a few stones, right? Oh, who's in the lead now? Kind of harder to tell, but actually still pretty much the same, right? You may have some questions about who gets what point in certain little areas, but overall you should be able to apply the same principles and you scale it back even more. And that's kind of the direction of like how you tell who's in the lead. And eventually you get to the point where you have stones that are not fully formed and crystallized, but you're able to guess how many points there are there by counting some of the empty spaces there. And that's really another skill, right? That's just another skill. Okay, the comment I wanted to comment on here is that OGS gave you a rank of 40-something Q. Can somebody confirm that? I don't think that's allowed. I think, isn't 30 Q the absolute maximum for OGS? And I've never seen anything above 30 Q. I also haven't. I don't think I have seen a 30 Q on OGS. So yeah, I don't know. But it's nice that you're going out to play in real life, and a lot of people have not taken that step, so that's something to applaud. If you're someone who is looking for the same satisfaction of solitaire games in Go, look elsewhere, honestly, unless you're going to be like a Sumego life and death freak. Go isn't really, although it's a very logical game with logical outcomes, doesn't feel like one. It doesn't, right? It doesn't feel like one. It feels like a very intuitive and floaty and airy game. It, like you said, right? The tree of possible game states is just too vast, and there's no good heuristic to judge how well you are doing aside from captured stones. Maybe I'm gonna have to cut off that ending part there, though. So, to judge how well you are doing, I think, it comes with time, right? It's not like soccer, right? It's not like basketball where you can tell how well somebody's doing. Right? You can know zero about soccer, get out on the field, start playing. You know how well you're doing because you see the ball going towards your net more than the ball going towards your opponent's net. There's like, oh, I'm doing terribly. But even though I totally don't understand how to play, Go is not really like that. So that is an additional skill covered by the fog, right? And over time, you develop that skill. And maybe that's another reason why Go is so hard to get into. But you do develop that ability eventually. And I have when I play a game, and obviously the easiest or most obvious way, excuse me, to tell how well you are doing is to approximate the score by counting and estimating, right? That's one skill. But another way to do so is to kind of feel the different gains and losses you have throughout the game, which is kind of the primary way I tell who's winning or losing when I'm playing games that are fast on fast time control, like on Fox. I, throughout the game, have moments of trading where I capture a stone, or I make a turn, or I create a certain shape, and I've, with my experience, learned whether these things are good or bad, and that information of good or bad goes into my bones while I'm playing the game, and it kind of consolidates and synthesizes into an overall feeling of how well I'm doing in the game. But that doesn't come until later. That doesn't come until you've played many games and you've realized, oh, this is good and this is bad. And so you're going to have to wait. But the good news is you're going to have some sense of it very soon, and you're going to meet people who have a different sense of that, and you're going to figure out what that sense means to both of you as you play. And to finally answer the question of, so does the fun of Go come from just winning games, or is there a secret component to it? Let's just say that there is a secret component to it, or maybe not so secret. One of the big things is the mystery. My fun in Go comes from, there are many reasons why Go is fun for me. Let me give you my personal reasons. One of them is the mystery of what the heck is going on. And that is fun for me. The vast board and not knowing where you're supposed to go and what you're supposed to do creates this kind of intriguing atmosphere that allows you to play things with feeling rather than always playing things with reason. The other side of it that's really, really fun for me is the tension. If I see a board and I'm playing a game and the board has a lot of tension throughout, there's an unresolved group here. There are these two groups that are both unresolved and they're fighting to jockey for life. And I'm not sure how many points I have, if I have enough. And there are many things going on the board at the same time. And every move seems so important. That is beautiful to me. And of course, winning is great. Not just winning, but capturing stones, taking big wins. But that tension, oh man, that tension is so good when you're kind of, I've mentioned this thing before where I miss certain things about games of when I was a weaker player. Like dragon chases, those were so fun when I was weaker and I was always chasing dragons and losing to them, or when I was a dragon and I was being chased around. Like that doesn't really happen as much anymore at my level, but that was so fun because it was so tense. It's like, oh, if you just make one mistake, the dragon breaks free, and it's so dramatic. But I love that. I love that. And so there's different flavors of enjoyment at every level. And I think Go challenges you to find the enjoyment that you enjoy about Go for yourself. And that's why it puts so many people off. It's like, what's the point of this game? How do you play? Where are all the answers that I have that I need for this game? And it doesn't give any of those to you. So, But that's the beauty of the game at the same time. So I want to read like one of the responses here. For me, it was about letting go of pride, just accepting I'm not good at the game and it's okay to lose, and not connecting my loss in the game to me as a person. After enough grinding over the years, the confidence is back and I'd consider myself mediocre. Also trying to play on 9x9 if you're not already. to minimize the feeling of being overwhelmed. A lot of players have the attitude that 9x9 is only for kids and beginners, but it's actually still very deep. If you play with the fast time settings, you force yourself to stop overthinking. So try the GoQuest server on mobile. I want to see the original post, the OP's response here. Yeah, I mostly play 9x9 now. Sometimes it feels more difficult than larger boards since there isn't as much space to work with. A single stone placement seems more meaningful than on larger boards. It's like pixel art, which is sometimes compared to painting with a really big brush. I don't consider myself very prideful, but losing a game does still make me think I'm doing something wrong, even if it doesn't seem like it from the first glance. Yeah, I don't know. It's like you can't really get rid of that feeling if you lose a game. And that's why it's so important to share your games and try to figure out what's going on with somebody else who's stronger. And, if you don't have access to someone who's stronger, you can always review your own games and think about it. Usually you'll find some kind of reason or answer as to what you did wrong. Maybe it's a little harder at the very beginner level. But man, this is a grand journey, and I think everyone who starts the journey can kind of feel this overwhelming sense of what am I doing wrong? As you can see by the posts we've read today. I want to read one more comment in response to this post. Okay, so I can probably write whole pages about how to get a feeling like you know what or how well you're doing. The gist of it is to get comfy with the fuzziness of territory. It may only really be yours if you can prove it, but see what you can get away with and to learn some basic tactical motifs. The heuristics at 20 to 10Q was probably my favorite period for learning the game because they feel the most intuitive at that point, and game narratives start to feel truly real. Yeah, that's a huge moment. When you're playing Go and it's like scattering stones and it feels like nonsense. You're just blabbering, and then you hit a certain level in that range and you're like, wow, there's an actual story. There's an actual plot to this game. I love that. But what are you playing Go for? Ultimately, you're jumping from a puzzle to a combat with an opponent thinking back at you, and that's going to feel different no matter how good you get. And I can tell you a fair number of us love that. But what do you want to feel? I'm so curious about this thread, so I'm going to keep reading. OP responds, so I usually tend to evade PvP games since I've been having somewhat of an aversion to human conflicts lately. Thank you, news and public media. Plus, losing in those games often leads to salt TM. But I thought that if I approach Go as more of a brainy, thinky puzzle game than a try to beat your opponent, then have an existential crisis over games being a reflection of the violent nature of humanity kind of game, then I might be okay. But this single element, the opponent, makes it difficult to approach this as a puzzle game since it makes it less deterministic and dependent on the skill of the opponent. So I don't know, to be honest. Okay, so, just to be frank, you're never going to get that same puzzle feeling in this game. If you want that, I suggest chess, honestly. Like, chess is more of a puzzle game than Go. You'll see many chess positions where it's just kind of a puzzle and you have to tinker with it and figure it out. But Go, ultimately, it feels like you really can't avoid the feeling of this person versus that person. And a lot of people say Go is a battle more against yourself than any other opponent, and I also agree with that. But don't try to search for something other than Go in Go, and try to take Go for what it is. And that's the best advice I can give to that. And Go. When you look for the right things in Go, you will find those right things, and those treasures are truly something to behold. I had an additional thought for that last Redditor who was trying to just have fun with the game, wasn't really concerned as much about improvement. And I think that, that's a great attitude for playing Go. And if you just kind of relax and let yourself learn, play games, just kind of notice things and lose a whole bunch of them and try not to feel so down about it, you'll start to pick stuff up, and you'll start to notice that you're improving, and you're kind of watering this plant that's taking a very long time to grow, but it will grow. So I encourage you to just relax and play. And that's all there is to it. It's time for the DDK Advice Corner, and the tip of the day is kickstand. Now, I called this tip of the day by that name, so it is a better mnemonic device to understand what you should do when you're kicked. Stand. It's a Go proverb, but let me tell you what kicking and standing is in Go if you don't understand. When somebody plays a diagonal, also known as a kosumi, and attaches to your stone, usually when your stone is separated by a knight's move away from your opponent's stone, your opponent will kosumi and stick to your stone. That is what is called a kick. It looks kind of like a kick. I don't know. If you look at the board, you can kind of see it. Stand. When that happens, almost always stand, which is add a stone to the top. It's really hard to explain this, but look it up. Kick. When kicked, stand. You'll see an example on Sensei's library, but you should do it. I see a lot of people not doing this. It's very, very important to do that. And until you understand the importance, always do it. Kickstand. And now it's time for listener mail. Jack writes, when discussing whether something like Go is a waste of time or not, there's a counterintuitive distinction that I always like to bring up. Useless things are better than useful things. This is factually true. What does it mean for something to be useful? It means that it is good for something else. A useful thing is only as good as the thing it is good for. So what is the thing it is good for? Is that second thing itself useful or useless? If it is useful, it must be good for yet another thing, and so on and so forth. Eventually, this must terminate in something that is useless, which is to say not good for something else, but good in and of itself. I love this. This is super philosophical, and I totally agree. Just well put. I love that. Although useless is kind of a harsh word for something that is good in and of itself, right? I want to just continue reading here. We are in the habit of treating useful things as if they are good and useless things as if they are bad. But this is almost completely backwards. Useful things ultimately are for useless things. As an example, your job is useful for making money, which is useful for buying food, which is useful for continuing to be alive, which is the good thing at the end of the chain. No, you're useful for being part of the capitalist system that keeps the whole country... I'm just kidding. No, yes, you are the good thing at the end of the chain. Remember that. Listeners, you are the good thing at the end of the chain. Being alive is... that was my little spiel there, in case you were confused. I'm continuing to read now. Being alive is in large part useless, by which I mean it is good without needing to be for some other end. This is a simplification, but the overall point stands. I'll quickly note that most things are neither fully useless nor fully useful, but a mix of both. So just a quick side note here. I'm pretty much 100% on board with all of this, but I think useless, why it's kind of an off-putting term, is because there are useless things that are not good enough how do you say it? Are not good intrinsically, right? Like what's something useless? Actually, it's really hard to come up with something useless because most things can be used for something. But okay, look. That's actually really hard to come up with something useless. What's useless? What's like something that is like totally useless? Like I'm thinking like a stick on the ground, but you can use a stick on the ground for so many things. But maybe let's say you have a greater purpose and you're trying to put air in your tire and someone comes and gives you a stick and you're like, oh, that's useless. So it's like usefulness and uselessness is really context dependent. What was I trying to say with all this? I'm just trying to say that like uselessness does not mean goodness. Does that make sense? But oftentimes like people fixate on the uselessness part of it, ignoring the goodness part of it. Anyway, let's continue. What does this have to do with Go? While it may be true that Go has good effects, such as improving concentration or discipline or some such thing, I believe that Go is fundamentally useless, that everyone basically knows that, and this is the best part of Go. I think very few people treat Go as a means to an end, such as a way to develop logical thinking skills. Rather, in playing Go, we are exposed to an exceptional experience that we are unable to get in any other way, and we come to love this game that can so surprise and delight us. Living and moving in the world of Go is a unique sensation, and we would be drawn to it even if it didn't improve other aspects of our life. To be clear, I think that Go is probably not a great tool for improving one's life. There are much more effective ways to do so, which is perfectly fine. Go is not a self-help book. It is a magical portal. Yeah, well put. I mean, it's like this with a lot of things. Music, for example, right? Music is not really useful in a way, right? I mean, okay, you can set moods, you can have a good party with music. You can, if you're a musician, you can make money with music, but trying to finagle music into some other purpose kind of defeats the purpose of it, right? It's really just about the beauty of the thing itself. And that's what you're saying is with Go, right? It's like, okay, everyone's like, why are we wasting time with Go? Well, it's for the beauty of the thing itself, right? For the beauty of the experience itself. And why are we all here? We're here to be alive and experience things. So, I mean, it's pretty clear to me. Continuing, now, not all useless things are made equal. Grabbing an electric fence for fun is also useless, but that doesn't make it a particularly good thing. So the question of is Go a waste of time is not answered by saying that Go is mostly good in and of itself. There very well might be other useless things that are better than Go that one might spend one's time on, but I think the conversation has to start with the recognition that Go does not have to be useful to be good. And the fact that so many people love it so much, despite its difficulty and lack of popularity, is strong evidence that Go might be very good indeed. For me, Go is a chance to live in an alternate universe for a time, where I get to be an explorer, overcome challenges, and learn new things in an exciting contest. Furthermore, it is a game of extraordinary beauty, and looking on beauty is never a waste of time. Yours, Jack. Thank you so much for your amazingly philosophical listener mail. And it totally encapsulates all the stuff I feel about why we play Go. There's beauty in the game. That's basically it, right? You look at mathematicians, the greatest ones, right? I'm sure they weren't like, oh, I got to do math so that we can figure out other stuff. No, they were like, I got to do math because math is amazing, and I want to figure out how this equation is proven, right? And it's just. I think we are at the height of our humanity when we pursue things for their own sake. I think I very much agree with many of the sentiments you expressed here. VVILSW writes, Hi Justin, I almost never comment on videos, but I've been wanting to comment on one of yours for a while now. I've been watching since the Go versus chess video and have watched every single episode by now, and I'm always waiting for the next one. Well, very, very happy to have you as a listener, even if you're a lurker, and also happy that you finally come in to comment, so let's hear what you have to say. Something peculiar about me is that I'm a chess player who's never played Go before. Not a single game. Yet somehow I've watched and enjoyed every single one of your episodes. I think what draws me in is that I find many parallels between the concepts you discuss about Go and those in chess, at least based on my understanding of chess. So perhaps it's not quite as strange as it sounds. Still, I'm curious whether there are any other viewers like me who have never actually played Go. That would be interesting to know, and I wonder if you find that surprising. There's one reason why I find it surprising, but not because it's weird or anything. Actually, I am a Go player who listens to chess podcasts and consumes chess content because it's kind of a parallel, and there are many different similarities that you can draw, and it has like some certain vibes about these kind of thinky board games that I like. And so I do the exact same thing as you. So it's definitely not weird to do that. The only thing is that it's like, oh, there's so much more chess content out there. So it's like, what if you're a chess player? Why not just listening to chess podcasts? Like, dude, like, but I mean, I'm really happy to have you on board here. And I think that maybe just thinking about a different game's perspective could be also different and enjoyable. And I think you're not alone, because I did have another listener write in a while back saying that they don't play Go, but they play Shogi and they listen to the podcast. And so I'm pretty sure you're not alone. But if anyone else is like this person who just plays chess and never plays Go, feel free to comment and so that they can know about you. Continuing, I find it fascinating how much passion you have for Go, even though it sounds like you're a busy person in real life. I have a passing interest in chess and come back to it from time to time, but I just simply don't have that time to commit at the moment. I find your episodes very relaxing and relatable, and you as a commentator very personable. I can put myself in your shoes and relate to the struggles of improving at a skill where the path to improvement is so unclear. It's that feeling where you're trying to get better, but you can't quite articulate what you need to work on, or when you do improve, you can't pinpoint exactly what changed or what you're doing differently. As you discussed in one of your episodes, somehow you're just making better moves and your intuition has developed, but you can't explain how or why it happened. And there's that profound sense of fulfillment when you realize you've genuinely grown and reached a new level. I find that your passion for the game is what keeps me coming back. It's rare to see someone who is as passionate about something as you are to the game of Go, and I also aspire to share the same passion with something that I would like to get better at, whether it's chess, my work, or personal relationships. It is something everyone can be inspired by. I find your words very kind, and it's always funny to me when people say that I sound so passionate about Go. I don't feel that passionate about Go, but I do love Go, and I love thinking about Go, so I guess I am passionate about it. But I guess what makes me not feel passionate about it is how little I play it lately. I was, in a moment of time, trying to commit to a game every single day on Fox, at least one game, sometimes 2 or 3. And I don't do that anymore. And I make this Go podcast and just talking about Go while keeping up with my correspondence games. I guess that's my involvement with Go right now. I hope to get back into it and play more games on Fox and review more professional games on my handy-dandy Goban. But I'm so glad that you found my passion for the game inspiring. And it's a great game. It's a great game. So you should play as well. You should try Go as well. But chess is also a great game. I love chess. I think that I'm passionate about many things. It's not just Go, but Go was like sticking around for a good portion of my life. And I realized that it wasn't going away. And I was like, you know what? I should commit to this and I should do more. And I should, I found myself constantly wanting to talk about Go and not really having an outlet for it. I started with a journal and I wrote entries for a while, and I was like, you know what? I want to do more. And I was like, I want to listen to Go stuff while I'm in my car and all those things. And I was just like, you know what, I'll start a podcast. And here we are. Continuing, I can easily imagine myself as a Go player through your discussions of the game, and I've learned a lot about the game of Go, even though I've never played a single game. That must sound very strange, but it's true. I make parallels with what you're discussing to the game of chess and just imagine that you're talking about chess. I don't know if that makes any sense, but that's just how I like to enjoy your videos. I do the exact same thing with chess podcasts. I listen to certain chess improvement podcasts, and I'm like, some of this really applies to Go. I can take this as a Go lesson, and I'm the exact same way. So you're not sounding strange at all to me. Since I don't play Go, I unfortunately cannot answer any of your questions at the end of the videos. But if you care, I'll answer this week's question adapted to chess. I like the solemnity of playing a game in silence and generally prefer if spectators watch along in silence or discuss amongst themselves, but I do understand the opposing perspective. I mainly play casual games, and if there are people around, I find that commentary can be very distracting. I usually play online, so if there's people around, their commentaries are around, their commentaries are usually directed at me, making it hard for me to focus if I'm playing a serious game. But if it's just for fun and ratings aren't involved, then I don't really mind, and I think it can be really fun to get people's feedback, especially if they are newer. I hope that you receive this message well. I just wanted to let you know that I appreciate these episodes and I'm very grateful for them, so please continue. I'll stay tuned for a very long time to come. Maybe take a shot at another chess video sometime. That would be awesome. Thanks. So thank you so much. I don't know how to say your name. VVILSW. I'll call you VV. Well, that was a great listener mail from a chess player. And I think I encourage you to answer more of the questions and relate them. Just clarify you're talking about chess, and I'd be more than happy to read those. But yeah, don't get me wrong about your comment about the silent games. That is the way to play Go, right? Kibitzing isn't gonna replace that. Like, I would encourage more kibitzing in more environments, but the context is so important. And the main enjoyment of Go is in silence. So I totally agree there. Anyway, thank you so much for writing in. Nico writes, Hi, I'm Nico from Argentina. Always a pleasure to listen to this podcast. About talking in games, I have a friend with whom we play correspondence unranked games, and we talk a lot about the game there. I don't know if comments from other users are visible in an unranked game, but that would be a good place to implement it. Because you don't want to do it in a competitive game, I already hear the objective. Some person is going to call a higher ranked friend that will make comments to benefit them or something like that. However, with an unranked game, there's no reason to cheat, and that community feeling can be achieved in a more relaxed setting. Yeah, that's exactly the kind of feeling I was going for. It's not really so much to replace the competitive and serious games, but to share thoughts and allow the exchange of ideas. You know, kind of like if somebody asked to teach somebody how to play Go and how to improve, you could do a review, you could do like a teaching game, but I think this is another way to experience the game, to just talk while playing and have other people chime in, to really kind of understand the different perspectives that people come to the game with. And sometimes you can learn a lot by looking at the way people are talking about certain things. And I think I would like to see more of that. So thanks for writing in. Sadaharu writes, is chatting in streams considered kibitzing? If yes, perhaps we should have more people streaming. I like to hold watch parties on OGS sometimes for professional tournaments, and it's nice to see people talking in the chats. About the calculation before judgment, you mentioned, what if there's something else there? I think it is more about intuition than judgment. Oh, so this is kind of a multi-episode conversation I'm having with Sadaharu about the order. But before I get into the breakdown here, let me just address the kibitzing during streams. I think that's considered kibitzing, and especially, it's a public environment where people can see. The only person who can't see the chatting in the stream is the opponent. So it's an interestingly unique experience. But yeah, I actually really like that when I pop into a stream and I see people talking about Go and just saying like, oh, what about this move? What about that move? I always like to see that, and I think that's kind of the feeling I'm going for. And then let's read on to what your answer to my so if I'm just recapping here, you said that calculation should come before judgment, and I said, well, shouldn't you kind of judge where you need to calculate before you calculate? And so you're saying that your idea is, number 1, intuition, and determine the possible moves. Number 2, calculation. Check what happens when you play the possible moves. Number 3, judgment. Check which result among the possible moves is better. Number 4, decision. Decide which moves to play. So if you're missing some possible moves, perhaps it's the intuition that needs to be improved. Honestly, I don't remember my Salty Crew order, but that makes sense to me. And I feel like if I have something different, it's kind of like a rehash of what you're saying. So that I agree with that order. Anyway, thanks for the clarification, Sadaharu. The question of the week this week, are you new to the game? Have you related to these Reddit posters or any of them in general? And what advice would you give them? What advice would you like if you're new? If you want to share your thoughts on that question, or you have anything else Go related to share, leave a comment wherever you found this episode, or email me directly at startpointpaduk@gmail.com. That's startpointbaduk@gmail.com. If you're a YouTube listener, I would greatly appreciate a like and a subscribe. And if you're a podcast listener, reviews and ratings also help. A very, very special thank you, as always, to James B., Brandon S., Tristan, Jeff H., and Tyranaton for supporting Starpoint. If you want to support the show in any capacity, you can go to kofi.com/starpointpaduke. That's KO-FI, or check out the Starpoint store at store.starpointpaduke.com. And come on over to the Discord. You can find the link in the description. And also in the description, I'm going to put in a teaser trailer for the upcoming California State Go Championship, which I will be commentating round 1 for. So look forward to that. That should be this weekend after this episode releases. Okay. And to just kind of close everything off, I just want to ask a simple question. What does it sound like when you drop 2 stones and a cymbal onto a Go board? Baduk. Thank you for listening. Keep playing Go.